It's Billy. Right now. Yo, what if I got attacked by the clones? What if the builder think they found a better stone? What if the beat don't match with the metronome? What if that means you walk your path alone? Call me a vagabond. If all these streets leading to Rome, then wherever I lay is my home. It's Brooklyn, boy strong. I manifest, I'm in the zone. Y'all silly better back up off my throne. Listen, boy nice, better give him his propers. How we come out sane from all the mosh pits. How we found the key to the game without a locksmith. How we seem to manage these lanes is so obnoxious. He let it flow from the brain, trusting the process. A vet journeyman on multiple rosters. If I want it, I go out and get it and cop it. A monster with limitless options. Man, like goddamn, y'all gon' soon figure out who I am. We stay cooking, y'all used to that span. Western beef, I might square up at the square dance. Look, I change plans, not even a southpaw, I'm an outlaw with a rare stance. Your crew never had a fair chance.
Why's that?
I kill a whole bear with my bare hands. Oh, they studied the dark? Well, I was raised in it. Brain shifted, the kid displayed insane physics. Best story never told, and it ain't finished. How we handled a rock, spun and kept the same pivot. I frame different, hot like a flame kitchen. A whole 2 levels out of your range gifted. Catch me on the highway, lane switching. Or right at the top of your bay wish list. It's Billy.
Yo.
Right.
What's going on?
Now.
Yes, it is April
Billy.
17th, 2023. And this is how Billy sees it. Thanks for being here. Yo, this is going to be a very special show. I'm excited for this show. This is a dude that I met just recently, and I'm so excited that I met because I got to see his work and got to see this person, and I'm excited to share this person with you, and we'll get into it as soon as possible. Let me find what button I'm supposed to press here. Guest main, this is James Shelby. There you go. James, what up, man?
Brother? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. I'm glad you're here, yo. Thanks for doing this, yo. Like I said, James, our first interaction, you actually hit me up on Instagram after something I had posted, and we started interacting with that, and you introduced me to what you do, and I've been blessed to be like studying and watching all your videos and seeing the similarities and learning and seeing another brother asking interesting questions, the same kinds of questions that I'm interested in. So there's a lot I want to talk about, but I think one of the best ways to jump in is to just start with that and maybe work backwards. Tell me about what Tune the Fork is, and tell us what Tune the Fork is and how, like, what inspired it.
So Tune the Fork is a disruptive content creator that seeks to produce new patterns of thought, speech, and imagery. And that really, the concept of that was really just born out of this idea that I struggle with these mental illnesses, depression, bipolar, and the way that I think, I pretty much convert thoughts to images and those sorts of things. And so they represented patterns for me. And a lot of the patterns were negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative ideas about things. And so I was really just trying to figure out a way to create new positive patterns. By speaking, by communicating, by listening different, by projecting new thoughts, new imagery, and that's essentially what Tune the Fork is. I know it sounds probably a little bit more, esoteric than what it really is, but I wanted to just try to demonstrate that through, conversations and listening and those sorts of things.
I mean, you said, what brings you to start to think that way? To think about, sounds like you noticed that there was a need for this and you wanted to fill that space. Like, how'd you come to even start to think this way?
I've always felt that I spent a lot of time in my head, since I was a little kid, and that might have been a problem, because, I think I was just telling myself, a bunch of negative stories, but through the self-help journey, reading a bunch of books, Deepak Chopra, M. Scott Peck, and um, Neil Donald Walsh, all these different folks talking about thinking differently and connecting to spirituality and those sorts of things. I was recognizing that a lot of what I was experiencing were things that I was actually creating myself. And it gave me this idea that I could potentially create new experiences if I first of all believed I could, and then implemented, the practices of doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, and that really, because one of the things I see happening throughout a lot of your great content is an appreciation for words and language, and that power, the power that those words express. We spent a whole bunch of like half our episode was like talking about words, which is really interesting. And I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, agreed.
But like I feel like in order to come to these places, those books that you started to read, what brought you to that even? Because I wasn't around that. Did you have parents who were sort of read in the similar thing?
So I have a brother who is a psychologist. He got his PhD from Temple. When he started school, he wanted to be an architect, and he's a brother who's 8 years older than me. And he had to take a psychology course in school, and he started hearing about all of this stuff, and he was like, "Oh, this is why I'm jacked up. This is why I think the
Mm,
way that I think." And so it actually, shifted his trajectory. And then he started sharing some of the ideas that he was learning in his studies with me. And then I just picked up and I was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. That dot connects.
yeah.
And then it was just a snowball that started to roll off. I'm actually going to have him on the show in a couple of weeks just to talk about his journey and offer some advice from a mental health perspective to a lot of folks, because I feel like my content is directing more towards um, mental health and those sorts of things now. Just I don't know why it's
Just naturally.
gravitating in that way, but I'm just allowing it to just take its course.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big part of your thing too. I feel like you have an intentional lack of intention in a way. No, no, let me do that over. You have a lot of intention in what you do, but I want to say you allow for the unscripted moments. Like I feel like you build that in. You build the lack of like a solid planned out thing. Tell me about that. Is that part of it somehow or?
It's definitely a part of it, man. It's jazz, it's improvisation. Conversations for me is a form of my creative expression. It's a I've always had this ability to connect and to um put people at ease, to give them an opportunity to share. And in order to do that, you can create a framework, but you can't necessarily be confined to it or necessarily be defined by it. You've got to just, create the conditions that allow people to, generate these waves that allow them to ride it themselves. And then you just sort of be a partner in that effort. But it's a form of improvisational jazz. I listen to a lot of jazz. And so that's what I'm trying to create in these conversations.
Big time. I think it comes off really well, man. You have an excellent thing. There's sometimes I think about because I try to have a similar philosophy and something I try to implement in the content and the art that I create. And two things I noticed is one how similar that is to when we were talking about pointing. That is like in
Hmm.
terms of this ability to allow for the unknown and the freedom rather than to say with confidence what something or to dictate it or to require it. How important that is. Um,
And that's what I loved about why I asked you to come on. You articulated it so perfectly and simply in a way that I had never thought about before. And I was like, oh,
man,
and that's why I titled it The Precision of Vicinity, because
right.
it's like let's point and then go together. The room has to be left for us to define it in the process. And even with Tune the Fork, it's not what I set out to be. I just knew that I needed to go on this path, and through the process of the motions of implementing it, I would arrive eventually at somewhere. But I didn't have a set place. but I just knew I needed to go in that direction, if that makes sense.
That makes 100%. I mean, that's exactly the the course that led me to everything, with my YouTube and the stuff I've done in the career and out of the career, just creatively. Um, where'd you grow up?
Kansas City, Missouri.
How was that?
It was rough, bro. It
Okay.
was it was rough. This was, in the 80s and 90s when drug and gang culture was at its height. Um, and growing up in those conditions and having a lot of freedom and a lot of bad choices over good choices. I dabbled a lot in picking the bad choices. So
Yeah.
that's what it was like. Yeah.
Whenever we talked about our childhoods, we talked about our brothers. Now you mentioned an older brother today, but I'm familiar with your younger brother as well. So
Y-
what was the dynamic? I know particularly with the younger brother now, right? But
mhm.
like because we shared this truth. I feel like we had a similar reality that we had to deal with, and then we dealt with it differently. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and there's a ton of reasons for that. I want to get into a couple of your episodes, but like your mom, the episode with your mom, which I just watched, like, was so it gave me first off the vulnerability, the truth that came from that to see what is, to see what is with like it was so powerful. But you made bad choice decisions, you say, but you were also an older brother, and you did that work as an older brother. So
I did it when, so I'm 8 years older than my younger brother. And so when I'm 8, he's just born. My mom is heavy, bro, into alcohol at the time, drinking like a fifth a day, half a gallon a day. So she actually drank to that degree when she was pregnant with my brother. So my brother was born with fetal alcohol syndrome and almost didn't make it. He didn't have like any long term um impacts on his health and mental conditions as a result of that. But when I remember as a little boy it being real dicey and us having to go to the hospital to visit him and stuff like that. So I was clear on what my responsibility was as a bigger brother when I was younger, for a couple of reasons. One, because I felt that responsibility. My brother and I had a really strong bond. But two, my mother was gone a lot, so doing what she was doing. So I was left with this, I don't want to say, with this responsibility of having to take care of a 2-year old, of a 3-year old, of a 4-year old when I'm 9, 10, 11, 12, and I want to be out,
right,
doing stuff. So the bad choices didn't really start coming until high school time when,
a little more
my
freedom.
mother was kind of on the tail end of, her substance abuse and that sort of thing. So,
Hmm. One of the interesting things that I caught of many things was this. You talked about how some of the disappointments and anger and the challenges you had as a child, uh, that I guess it could be seen as like related to your mother. You transferred that to your brother. Somehow you
oh
took
yeah.
out things on your brother, and it took time. And in your adulthood and so hindsight, you're able to piece this together and then to forgive the whole puzzle because it got more complex, and then you were able to just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, talk about that because I think that's so powerful. The forgiveness thing
Um,
and the awareness.
you know, sometimes when just because something doesn't mean, knowing something and doing it are kind of two different things. I knew that there was some things that I needed to dress and shift, but I didn't necessarily do it because I didn't know how, I would say. I just, like I've got this relationship with this brother and, it's contentious and that almost became who we were. Like it was like, oh, well, this is just how we interact. And it was like, no, man, like, there's more room to do more And it wasn't until, much later in our relationship, like over the past 2 or 3 years, where we've actually turned a corner. But a lot of that had to do with letting a lot of resentment go, um, for the way we were raised, what we didn't have, how we relied on each other, um, in a lot of ways. And so it took a little bit of time, but man, it was really worth it. But even though we knew something was wrong as brothers, we just
Didn't
didn't know how to fix it.
right.
Yeah.
No language, no awareness. But tell me, do you mind getting into like what were some of the bad decisions you talking about when you say bad decisions and bad
um
consequences and bad, like what kind of arrangements are we
so
talking about?
so I was I was a stick up kid, bro. Like that was just my thing. I was really big into, um what's the word I'd say, high octane. Let's go figure out what we can get and how we
Wow.
gonna get it. And
Yeah.
then, shooting and all of that kind of stuff. And as a result of, living that lifestyle, I got shot 3 times, and made it through that. And that still wasn't enough for me to kind of, I was 15 at the time when that happened.
15.
Yeah. And that still wasn't enough to slow me down. And then when I was 17 in high school, we, my a homeboy, my best friend at the time, still is now. We got into some trouble, so ended up getting caught up in a robbery situation, and had to do some time
Wow.
in the joint. Um,
How old was that?
17.
17. Man.
Yeah.
Where was your hmm how do you hmm when you think back about those days, what does it conjure up?
Dude, it feels like I'm talking about a different person, bro. It's like the mindset. Like I really had this. Um, I didn't want to live, to be honest, but I just didn't have enough balls, for lack of a better word, to do something to myself. So I really enjoy putting myself in these very, dangerous positions, and I was real reckless, man. So if I didn't care about my life, just imagine the people around me whose lives I didn't care about. So everything was on edge. I carried a gun everywhere that I went. And so I'm looking for smoke everywhere I go. I'm just hot headed, and I had no concept of value for life or even love for self. It was gone completely. And I treated people like that. I didn't know anything really much about love. I just knew how to avoid pain and get from people what I wanted to get from, because I was born with this gift, as I said, to connect, right?
Hmm.
So I've always had the ability to do that. Um, I was just using it in, manipulative ways to, extract to survival mode, for lack of a better word.
Hmm.
All of that time growing up was just survival mode, survival mode, survival mode. I never thought I was going to live past 21. And I remember when I turned 21, I went to the Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut because I was dating this girl up there at the time. And I remember busting out crying, bro. And I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I had no idea. And I was scared, to be honest, because I just never thought that I was going to live that long.
Wow.
Um, and, 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 and so to even think about the the boy at that time, I feel like I'm talking about a different human being in a way. And some of that anger comes up now still in certain situations, that I recognize is there. It's like a damn dragon or something. And I do have these switches every now and then. That's why I really try to avoid confrontation. I try to avoid, um, high tension type situations, because I do recognize that I have this propensity to hit the proverbial fuck it button.
Right. Exactly. It's so funny. I mean, wow. So, I mean, my experience, I grew up in a rough part of New York, in Brooklyn, and especially for 2 years. But I was so cautious and worried about this stuff because there were, like, I saw two drive-bys. Cats would get into weird beefs during basketball, yo, and a gun would come out, dudes would just start popping off. Multiple times you just hit the floor and wait for stuff. I knew stick up kids. I knew people doing the drug game and different stuff. And for me, it was like sports and church.
Mm,
I mean, I have cousins who's no longer with us off of stuff, and others and spent time with different. Like for me, I saw the church was like all the people in church kind of avoided that, and the athletes. So I put all this energy in that, and I kind of allowed myself to. I don't know. Plus, my mom was super strict, so this is an interesting thing because as I watched your conversation with your mom, I realized, you know, one of the differences is my mom. Uh, at least the story I have in my head of my mom is one of someone who sacrificed a lot of friendships and a lot of like personal things going out. She was always just really
mm,
disciplinarian on us. You know what I'm saying? Like had to be home before this and that, and even in that context, I found my ways to fuck shit up. I found my ways to kind of get in trouble, found my ways to get out of trouble and all that. But that's wild. That's wild that your story needs to be told, not just like what it was, what it is. I mean, it's exciting to know that, there's so much more that it's gonna be, but like,
yeah.
sh-
And I think what's the baseline, I think the way that you're describing it, I think, there are varying degrees of latchkey kids. And I think it just depends on what the foundation what foundation has been set, and then what the framework is around it, and then how that's reinforced through behaviors and being present. And because my mom was a disciplinarian for those early parts of my years, man, but there was something about what happened when I got in high school that just literally went um down
mm,
quickly. I didn't graduate high school, obviously, because I was, you know, um, in a situation, but I'd always been an intelligent kid. I always, questioned everything. I always had a unique way of connecting dots, and but there was just no real motivation to do anything other than the bare minimum.
right,
And that's something that I still struggle with to this day. And that's one of the reasons why I create a lot of frameworks of and discipline myself in ways, because a lot of that internal fire that people have that are motivated to succeed and win and those sorts of things, I had to put in myself.
yeah,
And not to say there's anything wrong with that, but it's how you manage doing that is I have a very strong relationship to that, because I understand what the other side of not doing it is.
you're talking about how you've come up with like personal techniques for channeling your creative, even your dark energy.
Yeah, and the discipline aspect of it, creating discipline and frameworks within which to live by, and then figure out how to work within that. um and that's how I do it. I'm not one of those kind of guys that can just have a smorgasbord, bro. Like it'll just it I don't work in that. I don't work well in that. Oh, sorry about that.
No worries, man. Um, cool. I mean, so is that like some of this stuff? Do you find yourself talking to like a younger version of yourself when you make your content? Meaning, do you envision the conversations you're having? Do you envision your younger self benefiting from hearing them? You know?
No, because I don't think you could have told me anything, bro. When I was at a certain point back then. I think I was just at that place where I've got to go down this path.
Yeah.
Whatever that path is just, but I do speak to myself and to others in a way that leaves room for that. And that's why analogy I use a lot is seed planting, because I do understand that, like, I'm not responsible for making anything grow. Even when you think about a farmer, dude, like, they create the conditions, they put the seed in the ground, like how all of that works, the
Right.
photosynthesis and all of that.
It's
The
magic.
farmer is not doing any of that.
Right.
They're just putting the seed in there and then letting the universe or the nature do what it was designed to do. And so I feel like sometimes I'm planting a seed that might not necessarily grow in that individual in that moment or in that month. Maybe it's something that'll happen a year from now or 2 years from now. So I've just got to understand what my role is in that conversation, because I know what my reaction would have been, because sometimes I think we're looking for people to shift differently, and that's just not how people
That's not how it
respond in a
works.
lot of cases, man.
Yeah.
Nah, not at all.
Yeah. I think it sets you up for disappointment if you come at it with this expectation. First that you're the vessel for this change, that that's some ego on your
Yeah.
part, and then the second is this assumption that the other person is ready with it. You just gotta let shit be what it is. I mean, but I love the planting idea. I love the idea of co-creating. To me, planting is co-creating, right? It's like you're engaging with the universe. One of the things I saw in one of your episodes, one of your earlier ones, this word slight, and the way you and your
Yeah.
boy use it. If you could talk to me a bit about it, I love it because here's a new word that helps us say something that we know exists, and um, we need that, and it shows the power that we have the ability to do that. So what is slight?
Slight is the slight is basically you not doing what you know you need to do. It's like the gap that's created from what you do versus what you know you should do. So, and that varies between the individual, and there are degrees that relates to it. So, like, if I know I'm supposed to do XYZ today and I don't, I was being slight. But you, as an example, might know you need to do XY. So if you don't do that XY, you're being slight. And it's an attempt to acknowledge, the gaps that are created, and then a way for me to hold myself accountable. I always, even when I was in those low moments, man, I always knew. Even when I said I wanted to be great, I knew I didn't. Even when I told someone I did my best, I know I didn't. Like, that's that. And sometimes a lot of the stress and a lot of the difficulty sleeping and the dis-ease that our bodies experience, that we try to attribute to a lot of different things, is just us really not acknowledging the way that we're setting ourselves up for in life, because a lot of what we're doing is that slight shit that I'm talking about,
And how do
and
you?
your spirit won't allow it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you were talking about that. There's a phrase or a book. It's like the body keeps the score, or something like this.
Hmm.
Um, uh, that that everything is being tabulated somehow. And it's funny because it reminds me. I don't call myself a religious person. I want to get into your faith for a second here, like, because that has a faith component to it. This idea that everything's being nothing's lost. There's no energy lost. It's like how are you storing it? How are you transferring it? Thing. Are you
Yep.
aware? What's your faith, if you have any?
I was raised Christian, Baptist church, heavy, gave that a genuine college try, bro, but it
Right.
just did not resonate at
Right.
all. Um, Psychedelics has been a very big part of my life and my development and my increase of awareness over the past few years. And so I believe in the universe, man. I believe in energy. I believe in love. I believe that all of those things are present and calculating because it's all a part of the same thing. And through some of the experiences that I've had with the plant medicine, I'm clear on how divine and in tune and in sync all of this stuff is.
Okay.
So I don't call it a god.
Yeah.
I don't profess to know. It's like my 40th on my birthday last year, somebody asked me, how am I feeling? Am I getting better? Am I feeling, do I feel like I'm knowing myself more? And I'm really starting to understand that what I'm getting better at is not knowing. Like I have no clue what's going on. I'm just trying to be as aware as I possibly can be. And these firm, flags that I plant about certain thoughts or feelings or ideas about something, I'm always leaving room, man, because, that's to me, that's where the God is. If there's this, whatever you think, there's still more room to see more. So how can you be so firm in an identity or an idea or belief about something when there's a hell of a lot more that you don't know than you do know, and how do you leave room for that? It's
How,
hard
how
to
do you
explain, but it's like
how do you navigate that in a world that requires and incentivizes certainty and punishes you for changing thoughts or growing sometimes?
everybody knows they don't know. There, and an anxiety is created because we don't want to acknowledge that. So what do? We create shit. We fabricate things. We create enemies. We create things to make sense of that because the unknown is really scary. And the way that I resolve it is by acknowledging a part of that pattern, creating new patterns, is by acknowledging the fact that there is this unknown that is present, and that there's beauty there, that there's intelligence, that there's love. And if we can focus on that versus what we think we know, we can reduce our anxiety levels, man. We can listen better. We can love stronger, be more connected. But, getting out of this here is something that prevented me from a lot of my ability to see the beauty of actually what's in the world.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that somehow it's all here, and yet we all sort of coexist and co-establish stuff, and that what you're saying, you're saying that there are these realms of existence and truth and reality that are so complex and scary that we fill in gaps, we avoid, we project and create other problems. Um, I've been finding peace in noticing, like you're saying, these patterns and kind of going like, yo, 90+% of what goes on in the world has something to do with this. You know what I'm saying? Like the things that we call
Hmm.
conflict has something to do with this failure to see, what is. um, and we're so
And there's
bit.
so much projection associated with that, man. And that was one of my breakthroughs with my mom, bro.
Mm,
It was like this whole time. I was looking for something different and not really honoring and acknowledging and loving what was actually there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was my as simple. It, it, it's hard to explain the epiphany that I experienced when what it's like my mom didn't change.
Yeah.
It was what I was projecting onto her that actually changed. And sometimes what we're seeing in the world, like if I looked at you and you did something that pissed me off and I said, "Oh, Billy's an asshole." Is Billy an asshole or is Billy scared? Is Billy like I what what am I looking at, and then what inside of me is choosing to formulate these values and then projecting that back onto them?
Exactly. Exactly.
And a lot of that processing and the conclusions that we draw from that are based on patterns, historical patterns through society that we did not create.
Yeah.
And to actually see
Exactly.
something different, we've got to kind of like abrupt that um, flow to create a new pattern and a new way of thinking to actually see what's even there.
Exactly. How powerful is
And
that?
maybe the pattern, and maybe the pattern is not thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
which is a I feel there's so much incentive to be here,
Right.
to make sense of everything, to understand. So if
Right.
I can't understand what you're saying, then I can't connect, and that's not true.
That's
I can
right.
I cannot understand you and still
And still
connect with your
connect.
story, with your energy.
You have to choose that though. I have to choose to do that.
You have to
You know
choose
what I'm
it.
saying? Which goes back to why love is important. It's funny because you talk about the way you were waiting for your mom to be something different. I grew up kind of not. It's funny because I don't I wouldn't tell anyone I had beef with my mom or challenges with my mom really. You know what I'm saying? We never overtly clashed like that, and yet I don't think I've gotten to know her fully until more recently, and I know that there's still a lot more
Mm,
to know about her. Like I still think that the level of the conversation that you had is still a place I'm interested in going with my mom. If she's willing to go there with me. I don't know if it needs to be on camera or what, but like
right,
it was
right.
it was super powerful, and to thank you again for just the level of the conversations. Like we don't model these conversations, the depth of what it means to exchange these ideas, these experiences that are happening in each of us individually. Sometimes we get on, and even and just the phenomenon and technology of television and stuff, the way it's been used, the art, the artistry, it's performance, it's this and that, and that's all great too. But I love this genre, let's say, that exists, that I think you're definitely in, and I'm sometimes in,
I
like,
like
definitely
that.
like this reality TV. But I hate, we hate that term, but it's like it's something else that allows us to say, oh, it's okay to ask a question like this. It's okay to acknowledge a fault and a bias. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to learn something, and it's not, especially as a man, it's not emasculating to have been educated, or educated even by a woman. Um, that stuff is still needing to be trickled out, but I love seeing these pockets of like explosive, dope conversations, and Tune the Fork is a place for it. So thanks again.
I'm really trying to. I think some of the biggest challenges, and thank you for that, man, because I do. You know, the whole channel, as how do I say it? It's about me, but it's through the pursuit of listening and seeing other people. I'm trying to, and I'm trying to, and that's really, it's an endeavor to see and
To see.
maybe to see and and I don't think we have a lot of. Let me speak for myself. I don't have a lot of practice of removing my stuff out of the way to see what's there. I'm constantly projecting. I'm engaging in these shortcut conclusions so that I can move to the next day. And oftentimes I'm missing what's there.
Right.
And so I take these moments to just actually sit and try to put myself to the side and then use this gift that I feel I have to connect and create these moments that allow me to really see someone else for who they are, not judging them, not looking for an opportunity to fight or disagree, but just to honor them by choosing to focus on them for this period of time and hope that they feel compelled to do that for somebody else.
Yeah. I think the ripple effects of these things cannot be measured. We have these very scant metrics. Of course, the clicks and the likes, and we can be consumed with that. But I'm telling you, man, the effect of having these kinds of conversations out there, it's inspiring. It drops seeds. It provokes a different level of thought that I think is just needed, and again, yeah, the freedom flow of it too, to know, like, just as a concept, to be free and to go. I love your hat. Begin, you know. Um, I think that's dope. You talk about in one of the videos,
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this: outside of making videos and stuff, you experience this a lot. Where do people say to you that you make them feel seen, or yeah,
Yeah, they say the word that I get a lot is therapeutic.
mm,
I get that a lot, man. I've been moved at how people have gravitated to sharing with me just through DMs, people I don't even know. Talking about like suicide stuff, man, and how to how they're managing and how looking at this stuff helps. So
yeah,
it's the therapeutic and trust are like two words that probably come up the most
yeah.
when we're having the conversations.
Yeah, I think people, all of us, are just inundated with pressures. People are calling us by our name. People are calling us by our labels. We have these pressures to act in certain ways, and so few of us have um, a free and open and honest, a real safe space. And that word sometimes gets overused to me, but when I say this, I mean a safe space that means that, like, free of judgment. Like,
Yeah,
the letting, you know what I'm saying? Let it out. Open the blouse out, fart it out. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? I'm a human, you're a
yeah.
human. Tell me your icky parts, tell me the ugly stuff, and I will sit in it with you, and you seem to create the spaces for that.
Here's the thing, bro. We all got the same shit. Like, and this is, we just don't see enough people owning it.
Yep,
And that's a part of that producing a new pattern
yep.
of thought, speech, and imagery. I want someone to see, hear a black man fly and flawed, embrace all the parts of him that he feels are in him and that he's capable of expressing, and still being able to do that in the manner and the way that I do, still have the tone, the tenor, the vibe of, a black
Love it.
man and all of that kind of stuff. And because I know I'm not unique, I know I'm just the dude that's trying to go first to say, hey, here's what owning your shit looks like. Here's what
Right.
it sounds like.
Yes.
Talk to me about what you got going on. I know I ain't the only one,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to go first and raise my hand and say, "Hey, look, I'm struggling with this. Anybody else struggling with it?"
Yes, man.
And because I know they're out there. If there is a conference, bro, for flat earthers,
Exactly, man.
there is going to be a
Exactly.
conference for black men talking about love.
I love it, man. I love it. And it's funny how me on my end with what I've been doing, I felt alone a little bit on my end, as if I was first and alone doing conversations about love, talking about my father and things like this. And I remember thinking, I know there's other dudes out there, and I wanna find them, and then within a couple of weeks, I started getting a compulsion to stop doing the videos on YouTube and like do a 15 do the reel, do a minute and 30-minute reel, of this joint. You
Hmm.
hit me up and I get hit up on this like men's conference thing, and I find all these men who are interested in this that have been doing these same, the same work for themselves personally, and then building the courage to kind of share it and kind of lead this thing. And each
Yeah.
story is so different, and I come from a place, I'm really critical of CNN and the media or whatever. Like, they spend so much time talking about the ways we're different. But this is one of the most brilliant ways that we are all the same. This is the most important conversation we're all having and could be having. It's how we're all unpacking our stuff. So for you, you told me a little bit, like, what was there a rock bottom? What flipped it for you that brought you to here, man?
Man, I had a bunch of them. I I I have a lot of regrets, bro. I'm not that dude that's gonna be like, "Oh, I don't have regrets. I don't believe." Nah, nah. I did a gang of shit that I wish I didn't do because I hurt a lot of people, bro, in a lot of different ways. And as I got older, a lot of the people that I hurt were women. I have very, very dysfunctional relationships with women, and I that skill, and was married, got a divorce, still was trying to figure that out. Had a bunch of alcohol consumption. I don't know if I would necessarily classify myself as an alcoholic, but I definitely was consuming large quantities of alcohol on a consistent basis. Um, Weight out of control, just a bunch of things with just my life and just energy being out of alignment. Um, and it wasn't necessarily a rock bottom moment, like a singular moment that was like, okay, things from here forward needs to be different. It was just more of a commitment for me at some point in time to say, something has to be different. And then I had the courage to fumble to figure it out because I didn't know. Like there was a point in time where I didn't know what made me happy, bro. I didn't know what got me up in the morning. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. Like all of these things I had to discover
Right.
in my 40s, bro. And I was scared to even embark on it. Um, but the psychedelics, the ayahuasca, those experiences really helped open me up and put me in a position to try to figure some things out, um and implement some of those frameworks for discipline and stuff for me to kind of push past that slight that I talked about earlier, because that was another thing that I had to. It's not a switch, man. For people who struggle with like mental illness and these other things, it's not a one size fits all. It's not a one pill. It's a way of reorienting yourself and owning all of this stuff, and then shifting how you interact with it, what you call it, how you address it, and then you carry it with you in a way that's a lot lighter than you do before, because everything just always felt like a burden before. Now it feels like a relationship. It feels like, okay, we cool, we getting ready to go do this today, so let's go do it.
Right.
It's
Right.
like making friends with your enemies, for lack of a better word, and realize, no, they're not an enemy. This is just what it
Yeah.
is. I don't know if I answered your question specifically, because it's not necessarily one
It
thing. It
wasn't
was
one
more of
thing.
like an
Yeah.
evolution. Yeah.
That's what's up. That makes sense. How I got to meet your lady very briefly when I was over there. How did you two meet, man?
So a friend of mine, I was DJing. I used to DJ, and I DJed at the NPR building. And I took a picture with my play sister, and then she posted on YouTube. My brother is also my favorite DJ, and she did like she was the office manager for Capoeira Academy here
Okay.
in DC. And my girl trains Capoeira, and when she went to go do work there the next day, people were paying their dues, and she said like women was like, "Who's your brother? Your brother fine." And then she was like, "Get out of here, get out of here." And then my lady Zendo was one of them, and he
Wait,
was
say
like,
that
"Would you
again.
like to meet him?"
You said your
Say,
lady.
was My lady was one of the women who was
Got you.
like, "Your brother is cute."
Nice.
And then she went down and was like, "How old are you?" Because she know I don't really rock with younger women, and I look younger than I am, so just wanted to make sure that the age
Right.
aligned because I had strict things about age, bro.
Yeah.
So that's how we met, man. It was rocky in the beginning. Her love, her her love for self, her love for me, really set me up to challenge me in ways that I didn't know that I needed, and it was really helpful. It has been really helpful for me. Like love. Sometimes you hear people talk about like, "Oh, I want to be with this person and never give away." Like she loved me in a way that gave me wings,
I know.
and I could fly, and I'm still choosing her.
Yeah.
And she's doing, and I'm doing that for her, so it's not like this need. We're not dependent on one another. We
Right.
loved each other like out of the nest, and then we was like, oh yeah, we can still do this together, so let's just do it together.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, I could say it was a very
Yeah.
short thing, but just the interactions between you two, man, you get that sense. And it's funny when you talk about getting wings from this. If you said that to me 3, 4 years ago, I might roll my eyes at you, bro. But I met Sheba, and I totally know what you mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny how early on in our joint, man, like certain certain things she would do that would validate and support me were so foreign to me that I saw it
Mm,
as not a threat. I thought she was joking. Like, I don't know, man. I've had girlfriends and stuff who part of their thing, a lot of men get criticized for this, but women do it too, man, where they like this negging thing, where they don't kind of show support. I don't know. And it was odd to receive this like this very obvious kind of, yeah, of course I love you. Oh, I'm in support of that. Oh, you wanna quit your job? You wanna do animation? You wanna rap? You wanna? She's like, I can see you doing that. Yeah, okay. And I remember being like, you know what I'm saying? Like looking at it funny, how receiving her acceptance of me with what's the word, man? I didn't trust it. How crazy was that? I don't know if you can or relate to something like that.
bro, listen, I'm getting chills as you're talking. My lady did the same. My lady is the first person I've ever dated, bro, I've ever been with, who told me I didn't have to change. Every woman that I have ever dated before,
Yep.
it was a battle. I never felt enough anyway, right? I never felt like I was complete. I never felt like I was sufficient. Like there was always this insecurity that was just, it was a part of me. We were the same. And so I was doing wild shit in these relationships with women. And of course they would want me to change, or that's at least so I thought. So when I meet my lady, she's like, "Oh no, you're fine just the way that you are. You don't have to change." She wasn't saying I was perfect, by the way. What she was saying was, "I know that what you're doing has nothing to do with me, and in the totality of who you are as a man, that is enough. I don't think that's enough for you. I don't think you think that's enough. You know that's not enough." So
How powerful is that?
she loved me in a way and removed the friction that was always present for me to change. Because once it was like, oh no, you're good. It was like, oh, go do what you want to do. Like you're
Exactly.
free. And I was like, I don't want to be free. So
Yo,
oh,
that's
you mean
so.
I don't have to change? So what am I gonna do
Yeah,
now? Like
what
you're
am I
not
gonna
in
do?
my ear. Like you telling me I could, mess with other chicks
Yeah,
and 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 and, and be this person. And
yeah,
she's so self sustained
yeah.
that none of that, she took none of that personally, man. And that was really the path. That was when I started. And to add one more thing, my lady also told me that I could quit my job, bro. I woke up on a Friday morning and I was like, I hate this job. And she was like, why don't you quit? I was like, because I don't have another job. I was like,
Right.
dude, I was 44. I never thought about quitting a job without another job.
Right.
She was like, we got money. You can, if we don't, I got you. We good. I quit my job. I called my boss like 2 hours after that and was like, yo, I ain't doing this no more. And I took off a year. And that's when Tune the Fork, got started. And that's when I really started. That's when I found that period of time when I wasn't working, bro, is when I found my purpose. And that really was just a result of a lot of that was a result of the freedom that I felt and the support that I felt that she helped, in our home to just go figure it out. She would get up and go to work, man, and I'm volunteering at, Bread for the City up the street and, Thrive, helping, brothers come from the joint, with reentry stuff, helping them with their resumes. And I'm so, one of the things that I did for, when I quit my job was like, I want to wake up. My job is going to be helping people. So I went and looked for all of these things to volunteer my time for. So my job, I helped people for a year. And I was like, hold on, that's really what I'm supposed to be doing with my life.
Love that.
Like, that's my purpose. I'm just going to pick a bunch of different ways to help people.
Love that.
I haven't been happier, bro. I haven't slept as good as I sleep.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, and it's something
I could
that
talk forever about this shit.
I know. Listen. Let's keep going then, because tell me about timing. Because as much as she was amazing, we sometimes joke about how the timing just worked as well. Like how amazing it was that I was receptive to her and everything that she brings. Because there are times when I wonder, if I would have been able to see her and appreciate her the way I currently do. What do you think?
I agree, bro. And I tried to not season though. I tried to fuck it up.
Right.
I definitely was clear on repeating those patterns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of back and forth. And because we started loose like, people do nowadays. You got this one thing, you trying to end this one thing, you starting a new thing, and everybody got
Yeah.
things, right? So I still tried to play a lot of those, mental and emotional games, man. And they didn't work. And, I think that was one of those things where I really just got tired. The woman that I dated before her was a really bad situation. And I just always remember regretting um, what I did in that relationship. And I remember her telling me, she was like, just make sure if the way you pay me back is just by being a better man and not doing this to other women. And I've had conversations with my lady now, even about that conversation I had with her, and that sticks with me just and just moving forward. And when I found myself repeating that pattern with Zendo and hearing that voice, I was like, hold on, I got some shit that I need to clean up. Um,
That awareness,
and it
man.
started with being faithful, man. Like, um, I didn't realize how much I was using sex to hide. And that didn't come up until I actually started being faithful. Zendo, the first woman I've been faithful to.
Right.
Um,
Right.
like in a consistent, and I didn't realize that I was using sex to hide. And so and that's where like a lot of that those frameworks and discipline and restricting myself in certain ways really helps me understand what a lot of this other stuff is connected to. Because when I'm just defaulting into these things, it's hard for me to see what's connected and how it's impacting other stuff. So I got like a light switch. I got to unplug shit from the wall to see what turns off. And then once
Right.
oh, okay, that's what
See?
like cuts off right there.
So you're pointing to an element, and we got a comment from my boy Easy. He says, "Do you guys have or want children?" But before you dive into that, I love what you just said there with there's something, an element of testing that has to happen. Like, and this is where being 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 free from attachment to old narratives. You have to go through stuff to be able to. You have to go through it. You have to bump your head and test and pull the cord out, as you said, or go through the rough relationship. You have to say yes to a few things, and have it be the wrong answer. If you never get the wrong answer, you can't be sure that you ever got the right answer. You might be
Yeah.
settling for something. It might be right enough, but how can you know? There's absolutely no way to know, especially as we understand this stuff deeper and deeper. This universe is infinite. So I appreciate even that. But do you guys want any children?
We talked about it, man. She's 42. And I'll be 47 in a couple months. And so I think we've talked about it. The conditions have been set, all of the IUDs have been removed,
Okay.
and so now it's time for the universe to just do its thing. So
The conditions have been set. I
it
love
feels
it.
yeah, the conditions have been set. So and,
Um,
we're really open with our relationship and about some of the stuff that goes on. So it's not like I'm saying anything out of turn or yeah, out of manner of what she would be comfortable with.
Cool. Perfect. I believe that, man. I
Yeah.
think you're a very smart dude. My
Thank you, brother.
we get a lot of pressure about kids, and people are asking us a lot of questions, including grandparents and like parents and just people, random people, people. Oh my God, you guys. Um, and it's funny because before meeting her, I was like, I'm gonna be a single bachelor forever, no kids. I don't need any kids. I'm not gonna have it. With her, it's ticked up my awareness and like, like, which is just a testament to how beautiful what we have. Um, but it's not like I'm not longing for it. I never had that narrative that some of the dudes I grew up used to talk about legacy and passing their name down. They used to talk about like they had
Yeah.
some fucking kingdom or something. But
Like they got
but
like they got land and like
yeah, I don't know.
alpacas and shit.
Exactly, and elephants and something. Um,
Yeah.
but so for me it's like a possible, and then for her it's like she's like, so I don't think it's gonna happen. She's a hard no. But she's not a hard no, because we have these conversations, and but in those conversations she's given a lot of like hard no's. I had a lot of good reasons for her position.
I've seen some of her videos, man. She has a really strong personality, man. Is that the kind of woman you generally kind of like connected with?
Generally, in a lot of ways, no, and in some ways very much yes. Like, she's quirky and irreverent and funny. um she's not a typical kind of girl. She has she can dress. She prefers to be very effeminate and feminine, but she also can dress up. She might be in like a dude mode and energy. She's opinionated. I think opinionated is consistent, definitely. But
Okay.
and it's been funny because a lot of my friends would always be confused by my choices. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, she's fine. Like, both with Sheba and with other people in the past, they'd be like, but she's, I just picked the ones who were like a little bit. They're here. They're not here to play that game. Like, I'm a woman and I'm a wallflower, and I'm supposed to play some kind of back row. But Sheba takes that to a new level. Sheba actually introduced to me the idea of like this woman who, like, we doing these podcasts and live streams. She loves it. She loves being out in front. She supports me intensely, but she's also very much interested in like establishing her own voice. So it's been able to put my wheels spinning to kind of support her with that. Yeah.
There's a lot of confidence I feel in her presentation. Like
Yeah.
she's which I like. It's cool. It's a nice vibe. Like her personality's like
Yeah, she's big, man. Yeah. She's a
yeah,
little tiny
yeah.
5'3", but she's big, yo. And but it's funny to get to know her because obviously, like she's my best friend and like she's all of it. She's that and she's also, got her anxieties and there's places and moments when she feels small. And what's been cool as a couple is to notice, when I have that, I've learned from her how to help shape reality for her, like remind her of what she's capable of and who she is because I picked that skill up from how she treats me. You know what I'm saying?
What do you think someone would say like your best quality as a couple is?
Communication, big time.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I probably would say, I mean, I don't know why the hell I asked that question because I knew you were gonna ask me. So we're really one of the things that I think throws people off about us that I think is actually, wait a minute, I'm answering a question you didn't ask.
Mm. Feel free. Feel free.
I don't know. Because what I feel our greatest strength is the thing that people overlook the most in our relationship.
Which is.
Like we love each other to freedom, bro.
Mm.
And most of the people that we're around are looking for their relationships to give them something that they feel they don't have.
Hmm.
And we're looking for our relationships to reflect all of the things that we
We
already
have
have.
or are. Yeah. I love that. I love that phrasing. Yeah.
And that's a totally different framework. So, we love ourselves, we nurture ourselves, we do the same for one another, we make sure we both own our own shit. When I say own, meaning like this is a you thing right now, this ain't got nothing to
Mm.
do with me.
Mm.
And the sometimes the best thing we can do for someone when we love them is give them the space to take care of their own shit.
Right.
um
Right.
and we do that very well, to a degree that I feel some people don't understand. They're like, well, why are you together? And then one of the questions I ask is, if you were full in your relationship, what would you need a partner for? A lot of people think that the relationship is something that they go in to get.
Right. Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I feel like a lot of relationships fail, because a lot of times they're looking for someone to fill a gap that they're not responsible for creating, and then when they can't fill that gap, then they want to detach from that and move somewhere else.
Exactly. I,
And we're looking for our relationship to expose our gaps so that we can fill them ourselves.
right. I love that. That's exactly it, man. You're nailing it. That's great phrasing. I like how like there's a kind of rigidity, sort of our traditional ways of thinking about relationships has this rigid thing to it where I am this rigid incomplete shape and I'm looking for another shape that fits that this rigid sense of what's missing, when in fact like you're fluid and full and complete and this other person is fluid and full and complete, and you you create together, you get your sense of each other together. One of the challenges I think the relationship requires, the traditional definitions of it, we just have these archetypes, man. And so you go on that date
Hmm.
and she's expecting you to play this role of X and you're expecting her to play a role of X. Have you been on a date, you've been on a first date where, she kind of defies your expectation for some reason? There's something she did. I talk about this one day where this girl laughs. Her laugh was kind of masculine to me. I received it as masculine, and I couldn't see the laugh from her Tinder profile or anything like that. But the laugh flipped my whole thing. I became not attracted to her off of this one thing,
Hmm.
and it took days later to realize like what I was doing. Like you got to kind of update your reality with with
Yeah.
someone, especially in a place of love, you know, like you don't come in like, oh, this is me and that's her, and what, you're something different than what I thought, you know. Well, it's time to keep it moving. But it creates all that tension through this lack of like the fluidness and the lack of openness.
And it's a dance, man, because some of the some of the functions of man, I certainly 100% agree with, I identify with, and I want to embody and reflect in my relationship.
Right.
And then there are others that don't. And then there are ways, because again, like the relationship is to reflect what's there. So a lot of the stuff that we're showing up with are patterns from old habits and old situations, right? And traumas. Some of the things that I needed to do differently in our relationship, or that's being reflected back, are things that I should be challenged on, are things that our relationship isn't dependent on me changing that, right? But it at least should be reflected in a way that gives me note that that's something that I need to look at. And some of that might be, so like my lady didn't have necessarily the most positive experience with like men, right? So some of the ways in which she feels she should show up as a woman is a result of what she's
She,
had to show up as, based on the men that she's interacted with and what her expectations have been up to that point. So
exactly.
I'm not changing because of how the hell you was raised. You need to see the value of me showing up in this way, and look to make some of those adjustments. But if you choose to, because again, the relationship isn't dependent on whether or not you change. We've already
Right.
agreed that what's there is enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense.
No, it is. And I think one of the key components of it is to remember that relationships, adult relationships, consensual adult relationships, always are free to leave. You know what I mean? Like I like that. Put that on the table. Put that square on the table to remember that no one has to be here. We're constantly in a mode of interaction where the goal is to create the space and the love and the freedom and the flourishing to see each other so that everyone chooses it every single time. You know?
Yeah.
Um,
And I think understanding your why. So like I know I don't have this romantic European concept of love, right? It's not like, oh, I'm smitten, I got butterflies and all that little shit. No. Like I choose this specifically. I'm committed to this woman in this specific way for these specific reasons. I know what my why is. The framework that I've created is, so I'm choosing this box. So if things change, I'm going to get what I want out of the box because I'm choosing the box for a specific reason. And she's choosing me for that specific reason. I think sometimes it's helpful to understand, like, why are you with me? Like, what can you articulate what you get out of this thing? Um, and help me understand what I can do to help you achieve that.
right.
And you understand what I want so you can help me achieve it.
Exactly.
And sometimes it ain't about love
Right.
in that old school sense
In
of the
that other
word.
sense, exactly. Yeah, what does it mean? You know, and again, like the conversations that you're having, it's compelling us to get deeper than just a word like love, you know, to define it and know that for everyone it looks different. How does it mean? You talk about love languages and all this stuff. So that's a beautiful thing, and I wish I got that. So this is one of those where I wish I know that we're raising a generation of kids who are gonna be receiving this kind of awareness around relationships, just which seems to me like a cut above what we received. You know what I mean?
100%.
We hitting about an hour 15. So I wanna one more thing before we jump out. Like I want to talk about the topic of synchronicity, which you mentioned this a few things and a few times, like things that come together without I don't know what words we can come up with words to describe it, but it's inexplicably things that work together. You introduced me to rock. What's that? Who's that artist, man? That musician? You did a hold on.
Oh, Sun Ra.
Sun Ra. And you got me into a deep dive on him and all that, and we touched on it a little bit. Like I said, the way we connected and all this and other things that are coming on. I know you feel and can see and feel how Tune the Fork has grown and is developing. Tell me, let's just end with this conversation around synchronicity and what it means to you.
I think that synchronicity is happening all the time and with all things. Because we're human, to be human means to automatically constrict the gaze to a small amount, right? And so synchronicity for me is putting myself in a position to see how all of these things, that's God to me. That's the love. Because I have a definition of love, and that definition is the connection that binds all things. To me, that's what love is. Love is there, love is everywhere. It's just, are you aware of or connected to what that bind is?
Right.
It's there, but synchronicity for me is seeing how these things line up. And for me, I'm driven based on what my awareness is of the synchronicity. And then I leave room for that grace and for that patience, because what that's telling me is that I'm just not aware. I don't have the capacity to see the synchronicity that exists there. So it appears to be fragmented or out of place. But it's actually a part of another
larger
synchronicity somewhere else.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
To sit in that and to just be comfortable with it and to move in it and move with what you know as best you can and be constantly reassessing and growing from that, man. I love that. I see that in what you're doing, and I just want to end with that, man. If you have anything else you'd like to plug or talk about or throw out real quick, and then we can wrap.
Nah, man, I just wanted to say thank you for having me on, man. Like I said, I had the opportunity, brother, to give you your flowers.
Thank you, man.
Us meeting is not an accident. I see the synchronicity, I see the love, I feel it. And I know that we're going to be doing things together in the future, big things, small things, a lot of things. So I'm excited about where our connection takes us, man, and all the other things that we do with that. So I really appreciate you, brother.
Same, man. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for the love, bro. All that. Same to you.
Absolutely.
And I hit you up, man. Just stay on for a sec. That's the show. Let me wrap this up real quick. Thanks, everybody. March 17th. This was James Shelby, and that's how Billy sees it. Yeah, it's been crazy to realize that life is this incredible story, a journey that's unfolding for us, from us. The life experience isn't just out there, it's also inside of us. It's our perception, our beliefs, our language, our traumas, our prior assumptions. Sometimes you need the benefit of time, some distance. You can look back and see, everything happened just as it needed to for this moment. Listen, I've been grown, my step pops move just like the wind blows. I chin stroke and reminisce on days when life was simple. Me, always had a pen stroke, fresh like Mentos. At 9 I wrote complex lines and colored pencils. By 16 the game was mental. The stuff I've been through, I had to learn to break shit down and reassemble. The cops judge me by my skin tone. Me and my kinfolk, we been broke. These checks too slow, file the rent broke. Look, sidewalk chalk, I trace it in black. Shit strange how the brain can relapse to anger in fact. But hey, everybody chasing a stack, sitting at the table telling fables with a plate full of scraps.
You had the mic, now we taking it back. Mirror to the face, facing it flat. Can you face it or not? They stole your whole shit straight from the apps. Don't at me, I'm just stating the facts. And all these words I spit, I'm a wordsmith. Perfect verses, hurt way worse than curse words did. Get the hearses, how they gon' hang truth from purse strings? The nerve of these clowns and cursed earthlings. Check the grace they got for racists and bots. Content clowns chasing the guap. They daily research on the wire. Be copy and pasted a lot. Wait, my basic cable is basically ops. Breaking news. I try to count my blessings, though these people are vexing. Notice pain is a testing. Choose to press in, I'm etched in. Stuff of exploded stars caressing. Who got bars like Billy B. Blessing? Answer the question. But let me say less, I don't flaunt predator apex. I make moves, y'all stunt for placements. Life stage is amazing by God's graces. Not a thug, but definitely goon adjacent. I foul flagrant, chef it up with no apron. But y'all ego talk too much and not patient. Look, not for Nathan, stay true and stop faking. That's why the broads turned off and not naked. I'm complex, never complacent. My steps constant, accomplishments and roads taken. So I'ma live this one life my way. Big moves, my head might skyscrape. Migraine, I stack bread like sideways. They pay a lot to talk in sly ways. Now I keep the fam fed off rhyme play. Who the type to set it off in 9 ways? Billy, the most creative MC in this time space. Look, who the type to set it off in 9 ways? Billy, the most creative MC in this time space. Who the type to set it off in 9 ways? Billy, the most creative MC in this time space.